Hello, Dr. J and class. This is my final project recording. Pardon me for 1 second. I'm trying to get to this screen, so hopefully you can see my PowerPoint here. And for those of you who don't recall, and I'm sure many of you don't, from my previous units posts, I am examining Tesla. So this whole presentation is going over Tesla's risk assessment for this course. Excuse me. So this is what I have here for the introduction. So my paper, I just briefly go over my company of choice, which is Tesla again, and I do explain some of the things from Unit 2 and Unit 5 and some of the analysis that I had done there. I did change a pretty good bit of what I had written in those units just because I felt that I had learned a lot more throughout the course. Things have happened also since then. And I had feedback from Dr. J, so I wanted to incorporate some of those things. So let me briefly go over a summary of my research, and I'm going to go over essentially each risk category and then the risks that I had identified in each of those. So first, the hazardous risk. I had updated this to examine lithium-ion batteries. This is something that Tesla uses for its inputs for its cars that are electric, and these pose a great number of risks to both humans and the environment. I mean, obviously, in terms of the environment, there are pollutants that can happen, but also there is damage to actual property around, and even more importantly, humans who are in those areas, and that includes workers. Operational risk. This might sound kind of vague, but I put here Elon Musk, who is the current CEO or the chief executive officer of Tesla, and I'm putting this here as operational risk. This is more evident in my paper, but in Tesla's 10K, Tesla describes that Elon Musk is a very important factor for its production. The exact words are it's that Tesla is very dependent on Elon Musk. This to me seems like a huge risk, given the fact that Elon Musk, I think, as a business, should be replaceable. A business is a legal person, and it should live longer than one human resource. So I had labeled this as a risk because things could happen to Elon Musk that would put Tesla on a spot that it could lose revenue, could increase costs, and with either of these things happening would impact profit. The next risk that I had, or I guess risk category, excuse me, that I had identified or had used was the financial risk, and this one I changed a lot. So I um, did include in my paper in the main analysis currency exchange ratios. So we did have a unit on this, and essentially currency exchange ratios are um, uh, being able to use a domestic or even a foreign currency in a different country and how that currency will translate to a different one. Usually it's domestic to foreign, and this is something that, again, in Tesla's 10K, it does say that it is at risk for these fluctuations in these currency exchange ratios. I put this as a risk because tariffs do actually have some impact on currency exchange ratios. I don't want to get into the specifics of how this would work, but there is enough economic evidence to show this. Um, as a as an additional risk, I do mention this in a later section in my paper, that tariffs themselves do also pose a risk, a financial risk to Tesla. And this is mainly because Tesla gets most of its products from other countries, as most automobile companies do. It does have some plants in Mexico, Germany, China, but it also gets some of its input products in these countries. And with a lot of things that are happening right now, both tariffs on those countries and also those retaliatory tariffs from those countries, this is a big risk for Tesla as well. Finally, the category of strategic risks, there is reputation and brand. These kind of go hand in hand. So here I'm again talking about Elon Musk. And the time that I first had written this paper, or I guess started writing this paper, Elon Musk had not taken a step back from Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, but now he has. But there is still a lot of talk about how his involvement with Doge is going to have an impact on Tesla, both in terms of its reputation and its brand. So this is something that I had identified as a strategic risk because this is a long-term risk for Tesla. So here are my key findings. A lot of these are really based on assumptions. It's really hard, even though we have a bunch of formulas to look at. Here are the average losses. Here are the like average frequencies, probabilities, and all this stuff. I am, as someone who's trained as an economist, this is probably one of the hardest parts to do really for anything. To really forecast would require a lot more data, a lot more time than this type of analysis would really require. And I don't feel comfortable giving a precise number without digging deeper into that. So I do want a caveat with that. And say that these are probably not even close to where these risks could be. So I just want to focus on the task at hand and say, here's what I'm assuming, and here's the different mitigation strategies that I think would work best. So, first, under the category of hazardous risk, I am saying that there's a loss of $15,900 per year. This is actually this is actually a pretty low estimate from what I've seen looking at different studies throughout my research on this, and this is mostly in terms of property damage, also some damage to to employees. And the mitigation strategy for this would be to have commercial properties insurance and also workers' compensation insurance. And I say this because there are some insurance policies out there for commercial property insurance that will cover some injury to employees, but I also think that it's important for a company to make sure that there is additional coverage because there are additional things that can happen, and not all policies cover everything that you can think of. For instance, I do want to say this because this is kind of relevant, as uh, I have mentioned in previous units. I am engaged and I'll be married in about 3 weeks, if all else, goes through. And um, my fiance does have insurance, or I guess I purchased insurance on her diamond, but there also are different riders that I could have purchased on our renter's insurance and our property insurance. So it's important to look at different parts of your insurance strategy to see what is the best way for you to get the maximum benefit in case anything else happens, because certain policies don't cover certain things and other ones do, and that is the best thing to do. So here, what I'm saying for Tesla, it's important to look at what would what insurance would cover injury to the property of Tesla itself, other property that may not be of Tesla, the employees of Tesla, and also people who are not employed by Tesla. And that's why I'm including all these parts here. On a different note, the operational risk is the next category and the main one that I had mentioned here. As I said before, it has to do with Elon Musk um, not being with the company anymore. And I had uh, said that this loss would be about 488.45, or if you want to round up, $488.5 million dollars. And this really is just in terms of revenue. This is really a drop in the bucket, to be honest, in terms of Tesla's revenue, um, in terms of what would happen if Musk had left. Um, I had said that the mitigation strategy for Tesla would be to gather information from Musk and create a contingency plan. I don't think that it's really, to be blunt, I don't think it's extremely prudent to have someone who's a CEO who is on this political board who is also running your company and expecting that to I guess fly. I think that there needs to be some kind of plan in place for Tesla in itself to keep running. Again, Tesla as a corporation needs to be a legal person and continue on after Elon Musk. This is not Elon Musk Inc. This is Tesla Inc. and it needs to continue on. So there needs to be some way that Tesla can take everything that Elon Musk has to offer and also input that, but be okay if Elon Musk, for some reason, has to leave Tesla at some point. And I think uh, that does that does scare me as someone who's looking at Tesla. Okay, so now I want to look at the um, financial risks. So I put three here. I'm going to try to go th through these kind of quickly. So I mentioned before currency exchange ratios. I assume this is a loss of 97.69 million. This is not, I don't think that's really the exact number. Um, Again, that's just a number that I was able to kind of come up with on the spot. But the whole point here is that there is going to be some kind of risk posed to Tesla, like given the fact that there are going to be changes in tariffs that are ongoing, and because of this, there are going to be impacts to what Tesla is taking in for its investments and also what it is doing globally. So with this, I have recommended that Tesla is going to be removing its investments that are susceptible to fluctuations in full to foreign exchange ratios. And on this point, as I as I said before, uh, these these changes in currency exchange ratios have to do with the fact that there are some changes in tariffs being imposed in foreign countries by the United States, and also in retaliation, there are some that have been imposed on the United States by foreign countries, and these also will impact the currency exchange ratios. So these in themselves, these being tariffs, also impose a risk for Tesla. So um, I have put here that the exact uh, the exact strategy that I put before to get rid of investments susceptible for fluctuations in foreign exchange ratios. I have put the strategy of removing any kind of investment, but also any kind of operation into these th these other exchanges that have been happening to prevent any further loss for Tesla. The next financial risk that I mentioned here, um, this one's a bit hard because it's not really known. Um, and you'll you as the listener will kind of see this as I kind of explain this. I do kind of, you know, say this is kind of unknown because it's unclear to me as an economist whether we're going to experience an economic recession. Personally, I don't think that we are going to. I don't think that that is going to that's not like what's going to happen. Excuse me, but I do see there being some, excuse me, some fluctuation in what happens in terms of our economy, but I don't see a recession happening in this year, um, even next year, and that is up to the data to really see. But um, I do see that a lot of people are predicting this economic recession because of tariffs and a bunch of other things, and that's fine. So um, I'm not a tariff fan, but I don't think that's going to cause a recession. So um, I had put here an unknown loss. It's not really, again, like clear to me what the loss could be. I think that there is going to be a loss that happens, but mostly it's because of what we economists like to call consumer confidence, and it's what happens when that happens. So when consumer confidence decreases, consumers will typically, all else equal, restrict demand for certain goods, and this will include cars, especially cars that are what we consider luxury goods. And I would definitely put Tesla's cars under this as a luxury good. They like will typically reduce their demand for them. So at this point, Tesla will not receive as much consumer demand for their cars because of a threat of economic recession, and this will obviously impact the sales or revenue for Tesla. The way that I would suggest or recommend having a mitigation strategy for this type of risk would be to have just-in-time inventory, which has been very much perfected by Nike. I would say that having pretty much to order cars would be great. This would be, you know, awesome, but I don't know if this is something that Tesla itself can do because there are so many parts that go into building a car. But I think given its resources, it's possible. So I think this is a huge thing that could happen. All right, so now for the final risk category, strategic risk, and there's two things that I have here, and they really are the same. So my worry um for Tesla is that because of Musk being the head or really running the Department of Government Efficiency, or as I've said before, Doge, there's a real reputation loss and also brand name loss for Tesla. And as I have mentioned in previous posts, I'm not one to really fall into this camp. I'm not one to really agree with the camp that like thinks that it's bad to speak out against what's going on. However, I'm also not in the camp of what's going on currently in the political space. So, um, I I think just what from like a business standpoint that there are going to be losses for what Tesla is perceived as for its reputation and also for its brand. And I assumed that it's really this, minuscule figure, 97.7 million, really, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the trillions of what Tesla's making in terms of revenue. So, um, and I do think that the best strategy, really, to be honest, is to remove Musk for both of these risk under this this category because I think that at the end of the day, again, as I said before, people are replaceable. And this is like a business standpoint kind of point. Like pe people can do the same thing. There are plenty of people out there who have as much knowledge as Musk does. And I am very confident that the board will be able to find someone who can do what he does. And I think that will be best for Musk, excuse me, for Tesla's stock price, for all of his for all of his shareholders, and as if you read my paper, the stock price has decreased almost 50% since Musk has been appointed to his position in Doge. So, um, in any event, I want to conclude by saying that there are many risks for Tesla. What is going to happen is very uncertain, and I think that the future research on this topic has to do with looking at what actually happens. And this is the whole fun part of research is that we cannot predict things that will happen. We have to kind of just see what will happen. So thank you all for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed this presentation.